This episode is brought to you by Bumble, who says Valentine's Day is just for couples. Just because you're not in a relationship doesn't mean you can't get out there and live your best love life. That's where Bumble comes in. This February 14th, you can flip the script and give those relationshipers a friendly dose of FOMO. Say no to staying in this Valentine's Day and yes to more. More dates, more first kisses, more gossip for the group chat girlies. Do Valentine's your way. Date now on Bumble.
Joe, the new era of Seth Cohen sort of begins. I feel like he's already retreated back to being self-absorbed within the cold open of this episode. And I hate to admit this, but Seth walks in and he's looking at the yearbook to figure out who his next girlfriend is going to be. And I'd like to sit here and pretend that that's a douchey thing that no human being would ever actually do. But I definitely know that there were lonely summers where I looked through my school yearbook and I'd go, ooh, she seems cute. And then I would flip to the table of contents to find out what types of clubs or whatever she was involved in. And
wow.
And I never moved beyond that. But like I had those hypothetical moments of like, oh, she seems kind of cool. Like maybe she's the girl for me. I dated nobody in high school, Joe. It didn't work out for me. Seth Cohen's got a much higher success rate here. But, it's a great cold open. Is the Cohen family goes to tell him that that's not the way to do it. And he basically is just like, listen, you can either get with me and be excited for me going for this woo girl, or I can complain about summer some more. And they're like, all right, I hope things go well with this girl, Seth. This is going to be great. Like they're all kind of just,
we're done with summer.
Yeah, please stop talking to us about summer is the team that they're all on. And I almost wish that we met this girl. Like, this girl that he describes, we never even get to see her. I'm like, she's a theater kid who does improv? I would like to meet this girl. But alas, no. And then Lindsay shows up as they're... Mm-hmm. Basically, what they're doing is they're wandering the campus, and Ryan will point out some girls, and Seth... I'm trying to think what Seth is doing here because I understood it as Seth basically saying, does he think he even has a chance with that girl?
Yeah.
But I feel like Lindsay thinks that he's just kind of like ordering off of a menu, essentially. Like,
yeah,
I'll have a slice of that, but not that. She does not realize that it's actually the most self-deprecating way that he could be, as she says, shopping for girlfriends in the quad. And she does correctly say it's very classy and not at all demeaning, in a sarcastic tone. And somehow her sass makes Seth decide he's found her. He's found his dream girl. And it's this girl who he's met for 5 seconds who was mean to him, which says a lot about Seth Cohen. That is probably better handled by his therapist, but that's where we are.
There's a lot of like mildly, I mean, in general, there's mildly incel behavior. The yearbook thing, no offense, Matt, but the yearbook thing is very that.
Oh, I'm aware. I don't like that that's what I did.
It was just like, okay, all right, like it's a menu, and I very much saw it from Lindsay's point of view. I also just like as someone who is really queer, who was queer and closeted in high school, like I didn't do that for that purpose because like even if I did, it wasn't like actionable.
Yeah.
So I was trying to relate and I couldn't.
Well, we've talked about this last week, how they seem to be like to use a Gilmore Guys term, they're really deaning Ryan Atwood a lot these 2 episodes. And none worse than, like, man, Raw Dog Ryan does not know how to be a wingman for Seth Cohen, even a little bit. Because the way that he asks Lindsay if she'll go on a date with Seth is to show up, just sit down next to her awkwardly, start with, I don't even know if you have a boyfriend or not, so this might not matter. To which she goes, I don't have a boyfriend, and seems very excited about where the conversation is going. And he says, cool. Well, if you don't have a boyfriend, would you like to go out tomorrow night? And then she says, yes. And he says, cool. So you and Seth. That is not how any of that works. Literally start with, hey, you know my buddy Seth that you saw this morning in the quad. Would you be interested in going on a date with him?
Yeah. It's also, like, that's not how, like, he justifies it at the end of the episode. Like, he says, I wish it was me. Like, when I asked you out for Seth, I wanted to be the one to ask you out directly. And, like, knowing that at the end, it kind of is almost like the writers want you to forget how he did it, not, like, 40 minutes earlier in the episode, because it didn't come off that way.
No,
Ben McKenzie's a better actor than that, so I don't want to blame it on his performance of not getting the nuance. I just don't think it was written that
choice.
way. Yeah,
it's a really bad script choice. One thing that I will credit this episode, I like this episode a lot. I'll start with that. It might literally be just because I love the killers, but, like, I really had fun watching this episode. But, like, I was very glad that this episode ended and they didn't play dumb with us. I was like, if they're going to try to stretch for multiple episodes to, like, oopsie, these 2 guys are dating the wrong girls and they should swap who their dates are and they'd both be, like, Joe, I was not going to have the bandwidth to deal with that for 2 or 3 episodes. I am so glad that is, like, a 15 to 20 minute storyline and not a multi-episode storyline. Something else I have to give credit for. We're thinking about this, comparing it to season 1 to season 2. Some people probably hate this, but, like, so far it's really been episode by episode, story of the week, versus season 1. I feel like we were on our second story arc already by episode 4. Yeah. And I think it makes these a little bit more digestible, a little bit more fun. But we got to talk about one of my biggest pet peeves. They're at the bait shop. The killers are up there doing their thing.
Uh-huh.
And these 4 people are talking at a low volume monotone and somehow able to hear each other clear as day. No. Anytime, if you can have that conversation, hear each other, then the bait shop is an awful venue that doesn't have their bands nearly loud enough.
Yeah. It's almost as if the music is being added later.
It's weird to think about it like that, Joe. Like, I don't know about you. I've been to venues where even the music between bands is too loud for me to have, like, a human conversation.
Yeah.
that shit, as someone who's been, especially, like, working events and shows, like, hell, you've been to, like, horror conventions, even conventions where there is absolutely no music being played. At a certain point, when you have X amount of people in an enclosed space, it's just loud. And you just find yourself yelling at each other to, like, get over the noise.
Yep.
Watching those dates, though, well, at this point in time now, it is official. Summer and Zach, well, or should I say Summer and Ducky, like, one of the worst fucking nicknames. Summer, I don't like you again. Just for that nickname. That is awful. That is a first take writer's room nickname that someone said, we'll put Ducky in the script and we'll come up with something better later.
I really loathe, like, nicknames without consent.
Yeah, no, it ain't great.
Like, nicknames, and I say nicknames, most nicknames are given without consent, right? But, like, at a certain point, the person who is given the name just either accepts it, but like Zach is actively being like, what is with it? Like, can we not? Can like in a gentle way?
Like, I feel like most nicknames, even, like you said, most of them are created without consent, but they stem from something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I can't even figure out what inspired the nickname Ducky.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, unless there was some time where they were like hanging out and he's like, I still bathe with the rubber ducky. And she's like, oh, I just found your nickname, but don't worry, I won't ever tell anybody the origins of it. But that's like my little pet name for you. Like, that I agree. That stuff drives me up a fucking wall. Other thing that I can't stand, Joe, in a similar vein, people who give themselves a nickname. Don't assign yourself a nickname and expect me to have to call you by that nickname.
Yeah.
like that's a thing I will not stand for. At a certain point, they're at the concert, and it's already an awful situation.
Yeah.
Seth has nothing to say to Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan could give a fuck less about music, which is the only thing that Alex cares about in the world.
Yeah.
So that's already a lot. And then in rolls fucking Marissa and Summer, and Summer's there with Zach. And then you have this like no one is having fun. It is just what you are witnessing is multiple bad dates all happening at once.
At a show that's pretty awesome. Like, it's like
I would
the
kill
Killers
to see
doing
that
Hot
band.
Fuss, right? Like,
yeah. Like, what more do you... I mean, don't get me wrong. Sam's Town, great album. Most of the... Dude, I want to hear them play Human. I'm not a human. I'm a dancer, Joe.
Yeah.
But, like...
The Man. I want them to play The Man. Like...
Yeah, but, I mean, they are... I mean, Hot Fuss, you are talking about 12 perfect tracks that they are up there playing when they're still new and fresh, when they haven't been played to death.
Yeah.
And
when they haven't figured out their fashion yet.
No, I was going to say they look so boring and uninteresting on stage. That's how early into the Killers this episode is. And they're just like, poor Lindsay. Lindsay just having to be held hostage by Seth Cohen's obsession with Summer for the entire duration of what seems to be a pretty great concert. I got a question for you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming the answer is no to this, but, they could surprise me. The bait shop. No openers at this thing? Like, they it's just all headliners. There's never, like, are we going to get some subplot where, like, Seth forms a band, or like Luke comes back in the town and does an acoustic set opening for somebody, or do we never in our lives see an opener at the bait shop?
We don't have time for an opener, Matt. So it's just like, no foreplay, just raw dog right in there. Like Ryan likes
Well,
it.
then Ryan will love it.
Yeah.
That's let me ask you a question, Joe. I've been to 2 that I can think of. Have you ever been to a show where it is just a headliner with absolutely no opener?
Have I? No, I don't think so. I was like, even going back to like when I was in high school and like I had friends playing at like the community center teen night, like there was still like a band that opened for the main band that I was there to see.
Fair. Yeah, it was 2 shows. I saw Hanson one time and Weird Al. And both of them just put on a 3-hour show nonstop with no opener. Like they just hit the stage and just did their thing. But I guess, you have to be a legacy band or artist that can fill that much time and also have the emotional and physical bandwidth to play that long.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why it's so rare. The Weird Al one, I was like, all right, probably not. Like, there probably won't be an opener. They'll probably, like, I knew that there was like a lot of costumes and pageantry, so I wasn't expecting that. Hanson, I was for sure. I'm like, they're not going to play for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, they hit the stage at the exact time that the show said that the show was going to start. And I was like, oh, all right, then. I guess this is it. Close third was Flight of the Conchords had a stand-up comedian perform for like 20 minutes before their set.
Oh,
but that was it.
I have tickets to see Beyonce in LA later this year, like in September.
Ooh, I bet that might be that could be a just B and nobody else.
We'll see.
Set.
That's what I've heard. I was listening to Las Culturistas, and they were saying that when they went, they were like, oh yeah, we heard that Beyonce opens for herself. Yeah. So she does like some of her hits from previous albums, and then there's like a break, and then she goes just into Renaissance, and it's a big giant party. So that'll be fun. The last time I saw Beyonce was when the Lemonade album was out, and this was also pre Coachella. Her opener was DJ Khaled.
I mean, you have to think to a certain extent, like, is it even worth it? Like, to be the opener for someone of that level? Like it could theoretically be like a career-changing move. Yeah. Right? But, like, ultimately, you kind of know that it's not. I won't be in town. I almost was tempted to buy tickets to see Weezer. Weezer's coming to the Philly area, and it's like, if you just want lawn seats, it's only like $35, and I don't know how many other opportunities I'll get to see like Weezer do their thing for $35. But that looks like it's like two fairly underground indie rock bands opening for them, where it's like, my guess is that those two bands get like 30 to 40 minute sets, and then Weezer does like a 2-hour hits extravaganza. Yeah. For the rest of it. But yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I was never like a big show person. I'm still not, like, to sound like a Beyonce myself, a bit of a diva. I don't like to go to anything that I actually have to pay money for. But lately there have been like those few exceptions where I'm like, you know what? Like, how many other opportunities? Who knows? Like, Weezer could break up any day. I should try to see like one of my favorite bands live at least once. Never seen Green Day. Should probably try to make that happen. Like, it's been over a decade since I saw Weird Al live. I do a podcast about Weird Al. I should probably like make the effort to do these things. For me, it's just like, oh, it's such a hassle.
You should send out, like, hopefully you can get like someone to invite you to see a Weird Al.
Maybe. We'll see. There's a lot of Weird Al podcasts out there. I just think that we do the best one. No diss to any of the other ones. I think our show's really good. Yeah. And you know what? Here, bit of advice. Don't do a podcast if you don't think that you're the best at what you're doing. You need to have that drive and compassion to feel like you're doing something special. Yeah.
So are you saying, is it because if you can't love your podcast, how in the hell is anybody else going to love your podcast?
Exactly. Like Mama Ru said, if you look, I truly do believe this. As a creator, you need to be the biggest fan of your work, or why should anyone else care about your work? Like, if you're like very like, it's fine. Like, that's not going to convince me to listen to your show. Yeah. Like, Joe, you and I are friends because you so passionately were into the show that you were making. I got a lot of business cards from podcasters that Comic-Con. You were the only one I actually checked out. Because there was a genuine like, no, I'm doing something really cool and really interesting, and you should check it out. And I was like,
I think that you would love this.
Yes. Exactly. Because also you're like, oh, you like horror podcasts. This is this one versus like, oh, you like podcasts? Here's my sports show that I do with my buddy in the basement. It's like, you don't even care about what I'm into at that point. You just heard the word podcast and went into sell mode.
I know. I think like, so I don't know. This may not make it into the edit, but like, I think I'm at a place right now where like I'm starting to get eye rolly when people say they have a podcast.
Yes. And no, we all get there. I get eye rolly when I say I have a new podcast. I'm like, why?
You need a new podcast. Like, you need a hole in your head.
Yeah. Oh man, but there's a new one that's brewing, Joe. Don't you worry.
This episode is brought to you by Bumble, who says Valentine's Day is just for couples. Just because you're not in a relationship doesn't mean you can't get out there and live your best love life. That's where Bumble comes in. This February 14th, you can flip the script and give those relationshipers a friendly dose of FOMO. Say no to staying in this Valentine's Day and yes to more. More dates, more first kisses, more gossip for the group chat girlies. Do Valentine's your way. Date now on Bumble.
91 Donkey Lane is a magical apartment complex that contains immense power, but lacks intelligent inhabitants.
What is happening?
I'm getting texts.
Why are we getting a lot of texts?
People found out what we did.
Oh, dividing Mike Myers into an infinite amount of tiny Mike Myers?
Listen to 91 Donkey Lane for free on Spotify or your favorite podcasting app. More at 91donkeylane.com. See you there, you donkeys.
Joe, I feel like we've completely gone off the rails. Let's talk about the music, because that's what we actually, the highlight of this show is legitimately the music.
Yeah.
So before we get to the Killers, we got to sit through some other tracks that are definitely not going to be the song of the episode. So the episode kicks off with Silence by Gomez. When Seth and Ryan are looking at girls in the quad, Fortress by Pinback plays. When Marissa goes to invite DJ to come to the concert, which is kind of something we just kind of skimmed over, but I feel like that is kind of a non-storyline right now anyway.
We don't need to care about DJ and Marissa right now for a little bit. Because we know it's not going to, you and I both know.
That's just an Olive Branch storyline to remind us that DJ is around for later. But while that happens, On Your Way by the album Leaf plays. Domesticata by Mosquitoes play when Seth invites Alex to the group hang with Lindsay and Ryan.
God, the fucking group hang.
And then we get a trifecta of killer songs. It kicks off with Smile Like You Mean It. Great song. In the middle, we get Mr. Brightside. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, we get Everything Will Be All Right. And then to wrap up the episode, what other band could you end with besides the Killers? Of course, it's U2 with Sometimes You Can't Make It On Your Own. Joe, I don't think a song of the episode has ever been this obvious in my entire life. In my eyes, it is the anthem of our generation. You can't go to a wedding of a late 20s, early 30-year-old and not have a crowd of former gothy kids singing Mr. Brightside at the top of their lungs. I was singing along with it. I must have missed dialogue. I was singing along with it when it happened. To me, it has to be Mr. Brightside.
So we disagree.
Okay.
We disagree.
You went with U2? Got it.
Well, U2 was the second one, and it's beautiful because again, it's doing that thing that the last song of the episode's supposed to do, which is wrap it all up and really get you involved into the pathos of the episode. And even the lyrics, sometimes you can't make it on your own, and everybody's coupled, like that whole thing about it. That's not the song that I chose. The song that I chose is Smile Like You Mean It.
I thought it was going to be that. I thought if you didn't go with Mr. Brightside, it had to be Smile Like You Mean It is such a good song. But Joe, I was driving 4 hours home from Pittsburgh and I decided to put on Hot Fuzz this week while I was driving.
Oh, it's a great road trip album.
Dude, to me, you hear that guitar riff and it's just like, oh, well, I guess the next 4 minutes is going to be me screaming my little lungs out because, Joe, I'm crawling out of my cage and I'm doing just fine. Got to get down because I want it all.
See, okay, I do love Mr. Brightside, right? It is like, it takes me back to like.
I mean, talk about your Hollister playlist. You can't tell me that's not on your Did I Just Walk Into a Hollister playlist?
It's not. It's not. It actually should be, but it's not. Mr. Brightside gives me like that. Like it. I can clearly see in my mind like the Killers is a VH1 You Oughta Know artist. It's like in the top, like the weekly countdown, the top 20 that they do. But I got to tell you, man, what I love about the use of like Smile Like You Mean It is just kind of how it was unexpected, and I always forget that that's like a banging hit, a banging Killer song, and how it like is woven into the episode and everything and everything that's going on as the song is happening, because like they really are trying to have a good time when they just get there, and it doesn't go that way. But the song that like me personally, so like Mr. Brightside is great, like you said, millennial wedding, like it's great to just bounce up and down for that. I went to a wedding a couple years ago where the song that they played from Hot Fuss was All the Things That I've Done, which was...
Well, I was just about to say, can you think of an album with a stronger front half than Hot Fuss, where you go from Jenny Was a Friend of Mine into Mr. Brightside, into Smile Like You Mean It, into Somebody Told Me, into All the Things I've Done. Like, those are just 5 unbelievable songs back to back to back to back. Because, Joe, neither one of us, we got soul, but we're not soldiers.
Yeah. but so like the song that makes me like, if I hear this, I'm going to listen to everything. Somebody told me it's that like, that boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, like that little
Drinking my back just to know your name.
I don't know why I did it as Cher. 17 tracks, got them with the game.
Joe, we're still not done. I mean, not only was the OC a pop culture moment, clearly Hot Fuss by the Killers really left a pop culture imprint on people of a certain age. But what is happening right now or in the past that you feel like, ooh, this is leaving a pop culture moment imprinted in society that you are experiencing and want to share?
So a couple weeks ago, I talked about this on Fright School, and I'm bringing it up again because it's awesome. There's a lot of culture that I haven't experienced, and it's interesting, always fun for me when people be like, you've never watched that? Because, they know me as a culturista, as someone who is plugged in. And so I have friends who in the summer, they have like this really cool backyard movie setup that they wheel out. And we do like a gay MC movie.
I love that name alone.
So good. Katya has like a video where she does like, the Nicole Kidman, we come to this place for magic type thing. And so we do gay MC, and the movie that we watched that night was a movie that I had never seen called, and it was Fried Green Tomatoes.
Oh, what a charming little movie that is.
I mean, yeah, but like it's also horrific because there's like racism and domestic violence and racism.
Oh, it's a heavy movie, but I still think it's so like never has a woman intentionally trying to run someone over with a car felt so beautifully empowering.
Yeah.
Like,
or just like the reveal at the end of like who actually killed the guy, and then like it cuts back to the present where Kathy Bates and Jessica Tandy are just like laughing like it's a punchline of a joke. I'm like, this is amazing. I love this. Yeah, so I also didn't realize how like truly lesbianic it is.
mm-hmm.
And I love that a lot.
Well, mine is sticking with current pop culture still, but also available streaming, I believe, by the time this comes out. Joe, none of us believed it was possible, but the Super Mario Brothers movie turned out to be actually pretty good. Like,
really?
Against all odds. I mean, let me correct that, actually. It is a run-of-the-mill kids movie if you have never played a Super Mario Brothers game and don't give a shit about Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
But if you grew up on Super Mario Brothers, similarly to how I talked about last week, how the D&D movie really paid a lot of attention to detail to make sure that everything was, like, all the boxes were being checked. Mm-hmm. This one kind of felt the same. My only complaint is my same complaint I have with every Illumination movie, is like these fucking weird 40-year-old needle drop songs for montage sequences that just like feel wildly out of place.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers is full of those. But like literally the start of the movie, you find out that Mario and Luigi have started their own plumbing business and they're hanging out in a pizza shop to watch the commercial. And the commercial is them rapping the 1980s Super Mario Brothers theme song, like the TV show theme song. And I'm like, that's so niche because there is no world where the intended audience of children is going to get that.
Yeah.
But like me as a 37-year-old who watched the Super Mario Brothers Super Show all the time was like, holy shit, they're doing the Super Show theme song in this commercial. That's so funny. And just, lots of video game Easter eggs throughout. It's not for everybody. There's definitely some interesting, we'll say, voice actor choices, and that's where we'll keep it.
Don't talk about Anya Taylor-Joy that way.
Listen, I just love that they also gave Peach big ass eyes. But
you need to listen again. We're going back to Las Culturistas because they did for the Culture Awards.
I listened to all 3 episodes of the Culture Awards.
Oh
Don't
my
you
god!
worry.
Where did you just die when they were talking about the best line in a movie? And
yes.
it's like Anya Taylor-Joy. I will save us.
So good. Yes, Joe did this I think earlier a couple weeks ago, but absolutely check out the 3 episodes of the Los Culturistas. I almost wish that was all that show was, because I always get sucked into that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I get sucked in to them goofing around about culture, and then I get so I subscribed for like a year, and I just was like, I don't like their interviews. I just want to listen to the 2 of them gab about culture stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I don't care about the Real Housewives, and I still listen.
Yeah, like it's just like stuff like that where it's like, I'm like, I don't like, these are things where I'm like, I don't care, but then like I still think that their like 3-part episode of like the 100 greatest moments in culture is like, I would tell anybody that they need to listen to all 3 of those episodes. Like, take them in, digest them. They're perfect. They're hilarious. I can't even argue with the list of rankings. It's funny, but it's also accurate. Like, so there. We both also subtly use this as a pop culture promo for Los Culturistas.
Yeah.
But you know what, Joe? There's another podcast that people should be listening to. Ours.
Yes.
So hit that subscribe button, because if you think that the white people problems are over, oh boy, there's still like 18 episodes of this season alone that we've got to get through.
We're really just beginning.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.